Hi, and welcome to this BAPT webinar. This is the British Association for Psychological Type. I'm Richard Owen, the current treasurer, and I've also got the current director of membership. So I know we've actually got special titles as well. I like treasurer, but I'm actually the director of finance, so my proper title. We've also got our director of membership as well. Is that your official title, Catherine?
Yeah, I tend to say membership secretary, actually. I'm a bit like you, but yeah, director of board and member services, I think, because I also service the board as well as the members.
Sounds like a fancy title, yeah. But unlike you, I like the sort of down to earth, the old style titles, and so it's exciting to be back again. We've only got a few more webinars like this left until the conference, the BAPT 30th anniversary conference, which is again held in Milton Keynes this year. And the date being the 11th to the 13th of April. The theme is Pearls of Wisdom, and we've got some really great presenters from all over the world. Some great, really good lineup this year, actually, of quite a diverse range of talks. People sharing everything from how we can combat criticisms of type and looking at that, and all the way to a whole range of subjects. I'm talking about the unconscious mind, so that's something to look out for. You want to know what's going on under the surface. Yeah, a whole range of interesting things. And Catherine, what are you talking about?
I think the title of my talk is Closing the Influence Gap. So it's basically about how we have a positive intention, but sometimes the impact of our behaviour can be negative. But I'll be bringing in also a bit of neuroscience, emotions, various things. I haven't quite worked it all out yet, so I better not say too much more at the moment.
So yeah, that's the conference this year, and this is the In Conversation webinar today, featuring Catherine Stothart. And other than the conference talk, which we're not going to share too much information about right now, is Catherine's book, and that's kind of one of the main reasons we've got her here today. She's published a very successful book on interaction styles, type, and brings in other models as well. Catherine's a coach working in large corporate companies for many years, and also a team consultant. So she does teamwork, team building, exercises as well. Catherine, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you're doing currently with work and sort of how you've got where you are? What's got you here into this area?
Oh gosh, that's such a big question. Yes, so I describe myself as a leadership coach. So I have a number of coaching clients in Airbus at the moment. They make the wings for the Airbus aircraft just down the road from where I live in Chester, and they fly the wings to Toulouse and Hamburg as well. So I coach a number of people there. I've got coaching clients in a company called KCOM as well, which is a telecommunications company. And then I sometimes do team building work, and sometimes that might include type. And sometimes it won't. So I did some team sessions with a group of managers in a college of further education just before Christmas, and that was all about type. And I'm going back later this term to do another session with them on interaction styles. But other times I might be doing some team building work and not involved with type at all. So I'm quite flexible.
Yeah, so it's one of your tools in your toolkit?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
How did you originally get into psychological type specifically, and what started you off?
Right, yeah, well, I was working, so this is back in 1993. I had been working in HR and I'd moved to leadership development. I worked for a company called ICL, which was a British IT company, now owned by Fujitsu. And we were running self-managed learning programs for managers, and we were using MBTI. So a colleague, Phil Dickinson, first of all, he did MBTI with me, took me through it. And then I went to OPP and got trained. But when Phil did it with me, I was just, God, this is amazing. This is wonderful. It's okay to be me. That was one of my reactions. I'm not weird. It's okay. There are other people like me. So it had a big personal impact on me. And then, once I qualified and I was able to use it with some of the groups of managers that we were working with, then I saw the impact on them as well and how much it helped people. So yeah, that's how I got into it, and I've been involved with type on and off ever since. I've been a member of BAPT almost all that length of time, actually, as well. So I've enjoyed going to the conferences. I've always found people are very good at sharing their materials, their ideas and things. So stuff I've picked up at conferences, I've often then used with teams. I've also been involved with Typeface. So I was the coordinator for articles on multicultural aspects of type. So that's basically because I spent 3 years living in Egypt and 2 years living in Brazil because of my husband's job. So I got interested in cultures, and then more recently I've been the coordinator for articles on education and learning and development, although I just stopped that and passed that on to David Hodgson. So I've had a long association both with BAPT and with type and using type, and I've also worked in organisations that use other type tools like Insights and TMP. So even when I've not actually been using MBTI, for example, I've been working with alongside other people who are using very similar tools.
And you're saying, so your type preferences are?
INTP.
INTP, and you said that using type helps you to feel more comfortable being yourself.
Definitely.
Any specific insights that you really remember from those early days?
Well, I think I always felt, I mean, I was in my 20s when I first did it. So I think I always felt slightly odd and slightly different from other women in particular. And so I think it helped me to see, okay, I might be in a minority, but I'm not totally weird. And yeah, I think for say with my female friends, I have to behave in a more feely way than would come naturally to me. And I mean, the other thing I think I discovered then was that not everybody likes debate and discussion. I really like debate and discussion, whether it's about politics or anything really. And I sort of discovered then that, oh, other people don't like that. And they actually find it quite difficult if I want to discuss something. They're more interested in, let's all be nice to each other, let's have harmony. So that was quite a big learning thing for me, because, we all think that other people are like ourselves. I think at first, especially when we're younger, and it takes time to realise that actually, no, other people think completely differently. So type was my way of learning some of those hard life lessons, I think. And also the other thing I learned was that I naturally criticise. So first thing I do, I see the faults, the problems, and then I might say, oh, that's a really good idea, let's do it. And I've realised that if you do the criticism first, you switch people off. So I've got to sort of hold that in sometimes and not look for the faults. I've got to look for the good points. So again, that's something that I learned through type.
That's great. So it's very valuable stuff for your life, isn't it? And
yeah.
As we all know, it can make a huge difference. Let's think about your book. So I guess you've shared some of your personal learnings in that as well.
Yes, and I mean, one of the reasons I wrote the book was because I wanted some of this stuff to be more available to anybody, not just managers in organisations whose companies can afford to pay for them to do MBTI or whatever, but I wanted to make it more available to anybody, really. So that was one of my motivations for writing the book. And I'd found, I found interaction styles was a model that people could understand quite easily and get quite quickly, and also start applying things straight away. So rather than it just being, oh, that's interesting, but I don't know what to do with it, there's a strong, so what element to interaction styles where you can say, oh, right, okay, so that means I should do X or Y or not do Z. So I'd started I'd come across interaction styles in about, I think it was about 2010. I think Susan Nash had done something at a BAPT conference. And I thought, God, this is amazing. It really resonated with me. I could really see how my interaction style fitted into a particular area and, what that meant. Can you
give us an example of that? Tell us what does yours look like, your interaction style?
So the Linda Berens name for my style is Behind the Scenes, and my name for my style is Synthesizer. So the thing that struck me about that first experience I had with it was that we were a load of people. There must have been about 50 people there, 4 corners of the room, and you had to go to which flip chart you felt represented what you were trying to achieve when you interacted with others. And for mine, it was wanting to get the best result possible. So somebody with the behind the scenes or synthesizer style wants to get the best result possible. They want to take in as much information and input as possible before they make a decision. And that's different from, for example, somebody with the chart the course style, navigator style, where they want to get, say the desired result, or the in charge style, where they want to get a quick result. For me, it's about getting the best result, but that can be good, but it also has lots of pitfalls and frustrations for other people. It can take too long, for example. And I actually recalled when I first went through that experience in Susan's session, I recalled a time back in ICL when I and a colleague were working on a leadership development program, and I wanted to take time to look at all these different leadership theories and work out a perfect solution. And she just wanted to get something done quickly. And we had a major conflict. And I think I would have dealt with that much better had I known about interaction styles then, actually. She was right, she won because we were in a business organisation. We needed to get something done by, 1st of November or whatever. So we never got our perfect leadership model, but we got something that was good enough. And that's one of the differences. So the in-charge style wants something is happy with something that's good enough, whereas my style tends to want the best possible results. And, sometimes good enough is good enough.
So you're saying that, the interaction styles are different ways to approach tasks or anything really in life.
Yeah, I mean, interaction styles really is about what drives you when you interact with others, when you work with others. So it's not like the cognitive processes, which are about how your mind works, whether you're with others or not. It's more about when you're with other people, what's driving you, what's driving your behaviour, and how is that coming across, for example, in your energy. I mean, how fast or slowly you speak, how quickly you move, your gestures, all these things tend to come across. And they can have a good impact on other people, or they can have a negative impact. And if you have a negative impact, then you don't have the influence you want. And so knowing about interaction styles, knowing how I might come across has helped me, adapt when I need to. But also I think it helps if you realise what might be driving other people's behaviour, you can sort of make allowances for them. If you appreciate, okay, they are coming across as a bit impatient or whatever, but actually all they're trying to do is get something done, then you make allowances and, you can have a more positive approach to them. Because I think most people want to get on with other people. Most of us aren't deliberately difficult. So, and it was really that message that I wanted to get across to the wider public, if you like, in writing this book, that people you have difficulty with, actually, they're just being themselves. They're probably not trying to be difficult, but you're just seeing things from different perspectives.
So that is the name of the book, actually, isn't it? How to Get On With Anyone.
Yeah.
Have you got a copy of it to hand there? You can show us as well on the screen.
Yes.
So this is your book, published last year?
Yeah, in July, published by Pearson. And, it's available obviously on Amazon, but it's in the larger Waterstones. WH Smith travel shops have it. I think, I know this. Last week, a friend of mine was going through Singapore airport and she sent me a photo of it. So it was in WH Smith in Singapore airport. So I was really pleased about that. So it's still out there in some of the WH Smith travel shops, but I think at some point they'll start taking it off the shelves. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I'm completely new to writing a book and new to publishing, so I'm not quite sure how these things work. But yeah, you can order it online with Waterstones as well. And the other place where it is, and this isn't really relevant to the people in Australia at the moment, but it's in the Wellcome bookshop. I don't know, are you familiar with the Wellcome Foundation in Euston Road?
London, near Euston Cross. Yes. They
have a fantastic cafe and a fantastic bookshop, and they have a really good psychology section and pop psychology section. And my book is there, and I was really, really pleased when they agreed to take it. And actually, talking of Australia, I have a cousin in Perth, and the other day she sent me a photo of my book in a bookshop in Perth. I can't remember the name of the bookshop. It was something like Bobbins or Boggins or something.
Wow. So you really are, getting this book published internationally. You were the, let's say a fairly major publisher who's got the clout to do these kind of things. What was the process like of getting this publishing deal? And I mean, I hear stories about people, trying for years and getting knocked back and eventually getting their big break. I mean, what was your publishing story?
Yeah, mine was a bit easier than that, actually, but there was luck in it, definitely. So I decided I wanted to write, or try and write, this book. So I actually wrote quite a lot, and I had thought that you wrote it and then you sent it to a publisher. And then I signed up for a 2-hour workshop run by a guy called Simon Garfield, who works for The Guardian, who was running a workshop on getting non-fiction books written and published. So I went along to his workshop and discovered that you don't write the whole thing. You basically write a proposal, and you have to put a lot of time and effort into this proposal. And you send that with a couple of chapters to publishers. So I learnt that, and I thought, right, this sounds a bit tricky, because in a proposal, you put the topic, the chapter structure, but you also have to put evidence as to why it will sell, who's going to be interested, your own network, who can you market to, etc. And then I bumped into somebody who had a non-fiction book on graduate employability published. And so I chatted to her, and she said, oh, I know somebody who could help you. So she put me on to somebody who was working independently, somebody who had been an editor, a commissioning editor. He'd gone independent, and he helped me write the proposal. So he and I, between us, wrote this proposal. I sent it off to 2 publishers with a couple of chapters, Pearson and Kogan Page. I never heard from Kogan Page, but Pearson came back and said, we're sort of interested in this, but do you think you could tweak this? And do you think you could tweak that? And I sort of said, yeah, of course I can. But then I realised they didn't want me to just say yes, they wanted me to do the work. So then I had to rewrite some of those chapters and tweak things. And then it went back and forth a few more times. And they said, well, what about this? Or what about that? And I had to make some changes. And then eventually the editor said, okay, happy with this, we'll take it to our board. And I was so excited the day I got what they call the green light, that they were going to go ahead and publish it. It was really, really, really exciting. I'm quite a quiet person normally. I was leaping up and down and running around the house and screeching with joy. Couldn't quite believe it.
Yeah, well, I mean, congratulations. It's a great achievement to have, and be a real published author. And so, what's been the result now? Then, in terms of the response to it, what's happened since publishing?
Well, so then I wrote the book, and then I had a date so I had another 6 months then to write the book, submitted the manuscript. Then there's a whole load of stuff that happens that I didn't have a clue about: typesetting, copy editing, rights and permissions. They go through every diagram, everything in the book to make sure you've got permission to use it. Even there's a photo on the back of the book of me that my husband took. I had to get his written permission to use this photograph in the book. So we went through all of that. That took months. 3-4 months probably. Then eventually it came out last July. Then before it comes out though, you as the author have to get endorsements. So this is when you're really sort of drawing on your network and trying to get people who are prepared to endorse it. Obviously to me it was really important that Linda Berens endorsed it, because it's basically Linda Berens' interaction styles model that I've applied and written about in the book. So she endorsed it. HR director at Airbus, who I'd run a workshop that he was involved in for him and his team. So he knew a bit about interaction styles from the workshop I'd run, so he endorsed it. And basically I got about a dozen people from various organisations to endorse it. Then you have to try and encourage people to do good reviews on Amazon. So I had to ask people, look, will you read the book? And then, if you like it, do a good review. If you don't like it, don't do a review. I've actually forgotten your original question, Richard. I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but
what's happened next? Yeah. I mean, it's all leading to, I suppose now, it's selling. Have you got an idea of how many people have bought it and are reading it?
Well, I know up to the end of October, so it came out in July. By the end of October, it had sold 5,400 copies. That's actual sales. That's not sort of returns. But now publisher won't tell me. The next time I will hear, I think, is in March, when I hopefully will get a small amount of royalties, which will be exciting. So I'll find out then how many more have been sold.
Amazing.
But yeah, and the other thing that I had to do with the publisher, the good thing about having a publisher is they help you market it for the first few weeks. So they paid for a PR company to support the launch for 6 weeks. They did a press release. They got me some opportunities to write articles for websites. They got a couple of reviews done in like the Sunday Telegraph magazine, a Times magazine. So got me a bit of coverage in the press, in the media, which was really helpful. But then after that 6 weeks, it's really down to me. So I've now got to look for opportunities to sort of write about the book, or talk about the book, or run workshops. So, you know, it's sort of an ongoing thing, but I'm enjoying all of that. So, you know, that's good.
Yeah, and you're just saying it was like Linda Behrens' model before as well. I mean, that's important. You know, she sort of created the interaction styles, but she had different names for them. And what's the story there with the fact that you've got different names?
Yeah, so originally I was going to use Linda's names because I'm very clear. My book is using her model and writing about how I've applied it in different situations. And I've extended it a little bit. I go into things like triggers for positive emotions and negative emotions, and the link with neuroscience and emotional intelligence. But basically, it's her model. I was going to use her names. The publisher felt that the names were a little bit long-winded, and they suggested we should have shorter, one-word names. And at first I sort of resisted that, but then I could see their point. And also I had found difficulty with one of the names. So the behind the scenes style, for managers, and most of the people I work with are managers in organizations. Managers did not like having behind the scenes as their style. So at the time, since I first came across interaction styles, I've run lots of workshops in organizations, in Audi and Airbus, etc., using interaction styles. And that was the one thing. Managers do not want to be behind the scenes. The rest of their team might be in charge or chart the course or whatever. So I think it was that convinced me, really, that I needed to change all the names and change them to hopefully all things that sounded positive, but also still reflected the core of each style. And so the names I chose, they're actually verbs that Linda has also used. So when she wrote about, for example, behind the scenes, she's used words like integrating and synthesizing. When she writes about in charge, she sometimes uses words like mobilizing. So I've basically used very similar names, really. And I like them. I like the short names myself. I have to now remember Linda's names sometimes when I'm translating.
What are the four in your...
Okay, so the in charge style, Linda's name, my name is Mobilizer. Linda's style, Get Things Going, my name is Energizer. Linda's Chart the Course, my name is Navigator. And as I said, behind the scenes, I use Synthesizer. And I probably should say the book is not just about interaction styles. So part one is about the 4 styles, and there's some activities in there to help people assess their own style. Part 2 is about living and working with each style, so tips and hints on how you might need to adapt and where you might conflict when your partner, for example, is a particular style, or your work colleagues are particular styles. But then part 3 goes more into the application. So part 3, I've got chapters on being an engaging communicator, on influencing, positive influence, on self-confidence, resilience, charisma. So, I've extended the interaction styles model into those sort of areas. And in that part 3, I've included a lot of the tools, techniques, models that I use as a coach. So things that I found useful as a coach, some of it based on NLP, some of it based on behavioral therapy, the OK Corral. There's all sorts of models and things in there that I find useful as a coach. So people can, use this book themselves. They can use it with their teams. If you're a coach, you'd probably be interested in the book.
There's lots of people who find it useful, and you also use a lot of case studies, right? So and that's a good practical way for people to understand the model. Have you got any particular favourite case studies that you have in the book?
Yeah, well, oh goodness, where shall I start? Well, if I were relate one to type for a moment, because because people may be more familiar with type of interaction styles. So there's one, it actually goes on through several cases. I was coaching a woman, INTJ, so chart the course or navigator, and she was working with a manager, ESTP. They were equivalent levels in the hierarchy, but they needed to work together. He was ESTP. They had constant conflict and problems and arguments and shouting matches, and where in that case it was type I was using actually rather than interaction styles directly, but where type helped her was to see how he saw her. So she, as the INTJ, wanted to have everything controlled and planned and organised, and when there was a crisis and a problem, she wanted to go away, think about it and work out how to deal with it. He, ESTP, as soon as there was a crisis or a problem, wanted her to be doing something immediately about it, and got really frustrated when he felt that she wasn't, when she didn't appear to be helpful. They both have a very directing style of communication, which is typical of the chart the course and the in charge. And they would end up in shouting matches, or she would just sort of go away. Being able to use type for her to see how he saw her and also how she saw him, it really opened her mind to realise what she needed to do to develop a better relationship with him. And they actually did develop a better relationship, and she started going and having a chat with him, going and have a coffee with him. They built a relationship outside the immediate crisis. And then when a crisis occurred, they were better able to deal with it. But it was just quite an eye-opener for her, I think, the fact that how he saw her being a bit structured and rigid, whereas he just wanted something done straight away, sort of thing. Some of my other favourite ones, I suppose, are a bit personal. So my husband and I have, when I first came across interaction styles, one of the first people I talked to about it was my husband. He has the chart the course or navigator style. I've got behind the scenes or synthesizer. We used to have a lot of conflict with his directing style and my informing style. So I'll give you an example of, I might look out of the window and see that the grass needs to be cut. So I would say something like, oh, the grass is looking long, grass needs to be cut. He experienced, now to me that's just giving information, but he would experience that as me sort of trying to manipulate him in some way into cutting the grass without directly asking him to do it. And that sort of thing used to cause a lot of problems. And conversely, he sometimes will ask me to do things, but in a very directive way. And I hate that. I hate being told what to do. So this sort of understanding helped us personally as well, actually. And the other way it helped us was navigator. He likes to know what's going to happen at the weekend. So whereas I would be, oh, we could do this, we could do that, how about this, how about that? And he would experience that as just a whole long list of things we had to do. Whereas I saw them as a load of options of things that might be interesting or useful or fun to do. So what we learned was if we sat down on a Friday night, talked through the options, but then agreed a plan for the weekend, he was so much less stressed because he knew what we were going to do. I also knew what we were going to do, and I avoided mentioning anything else that wasn't on the list. And, that worked for us. So, yeah, the other funny thing about those is that the publisher changed obviously I had anonymised all the case studies. All the case studies in the book are real, but obviously changed the names. The publisher changed the names again to make them more diverse, which I thought was a really good point and something that I'd not really thought about before. So again, having a publisher it has been really helpful in lots of ways.
So are you saying that your book has become a better book for having that guidance and input?
Yeah, I think that the book has become a better book from having their input. The other nice thing about the writing process was that once I got the contract, the editor wanted to see each chapter as I wrote it. And that was great because she could come back and say, oh, I think you need to have a few more practical examples here, or tell me what somebody should actually say. She made it really practical and concrete. And that sort of iterative, I would then make some changes to the chapter and send them back, and she'd say, yeah, that's fine. And then I'd go on to the next chapter. It felt like a collaboration, and it felt like somebody was helping me. We never met face to face, but it was just a great experience to feel that somebody else was interested in this thing and wanted it to be as good as it possibly could be, as much as I wanted it to be as good as it possibly could be. So yeah, it's definitely a better book having had the input from the publisher, from the editor, Eloise Cook of Pearson, if anybody's watching this and wants to know her name.
And
Yeah.
do you think that, the title is quite a bold title? It's a bit like How to Make Friends and Influence People, isn't it? It's that got that kind of ring to it. How to get on with anyone. Do you think, if people read it through, take it, absorb it, and follow the information, that they really will get on with anybody?
I think they can get on with anybody who they want to get on with. Sometimes people say, oh, you can't possibly get on with everybody. And I say, yeah, you're right, you can't. But, with your family, your friends, your work colleagues, your manager, your subordinates, people that you want to get on with, I do believe that if you take, work through this book, understand more about your own style and understand more about their styles and practice the appropriate behaviours, I firmly believe you've got a better chance of getting on well with them. But I think we also have to accept that some people, maybe they are really, really difficult. Despite what I said earlier, most people don't try to be difficult. If I think about somebody like Donald Trump, I don't think I'd be able to get on with him, however hard I tried. So, maybe, and somebody's suggested to me that maybe if I ever write another chapter or another section of the book, perhaps I ought to go into more about how to get on with really, really, really difficult people. People who are, I don't know, racist, sexist, misogynistic or whatever. I don't know, maybe that's a step beyond me. But I do think for most normal people, if you want to get on with somebody, you can learn from this book and change your behaviour so that you do get on better with them. And of course, once you change your own behaviour, that has an impact on them and they change their behaviour. Whether consciously or not, it's just a system, isn't it? You're part of a system. Of course, the other thing is that emotions get in the way of all of this. So a lot of the book is about emotional intelligence and about managing your emotions. And probably I'll talk a little bit about that at the BAP conference, because once your emotions take over, then suddenly you're not remembering the lessons in the book anymore. You're just acting spontaneously. But again, that awareness, being aware that something is building up, gives you the chance to take a step back, go and calm down, be mindful. And then you've got more chance of managing your emotions and behaving in a more emotionally intelligent way.
So your book really helps us to get beyond our reactions to things and be able to be in a better place to apply this sort of more deliberate approach to getting on with people.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and it may help you get on with Donald Trump, perhaps, if you. Who knows? Has he written books? I don't know. You might end up at the same book publishing show or something.
I doubt it somehow.
Post-signing event. I don't. You never know.
Yeah.
You end up on the top big sellers of the world, and he publishes his biography.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't imagine it. But I would imagine, talking of biographies, I would think Michelle Obama's biography would be an interesting one to read. I can imagine getting on well with her. Yeah. But so no, I mean, you I don't know. Yeah, you can't expect to get on with absolutely everyone, but you can get on with most people when you want to. And, you don't have to, when you work with people, you don't have to be best buddies. You don't have to want to go out for a drink with them after work. But as long as you can get on well enough with them in work, and you use all those sort of collaborative behaviours, asking people what they're thinking, how they're feeling, when exploring issues, getting things out onto the table, not brushing things under the carpet. A lot of the book really helps you with those sorts of things, I think.
Yeah, so that's a much more sort of nuanced way of looking at it. Although it's a less snappy book title, all of what you've just said in the last 2 minutes wouldn't really fit on the cover.
No.
Get your point. Yeah, as in you couldn't necessarily always get on with everybody. So yeah, just to wrap up, what is next for you? I mean, is this quite a long process now of promoting this book? Are you even thinking about the next book? What's happening?
Yeah. I'm continuing to try to promote the book, so I'm actively looking for opportunities, even perhaps talking at some literature festivals. I actually spoke Chester Literature Festival. They had the opportunity for non-fiction authors, non-fiction, but also non-mainstream authors, if you like, to go and do a couple of sessions talking to people that wandered in for a coffee. So that was an interesting experience because as part of that I was reading extracts from the book, so that was different from running a workshop in business. So I want to look for more opportunities to do that sort of thing, talking to business groups, that type of thing. I write a weekly blog, and I like writing a blog, so I sometimes post that on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter now. The publisher said, really you need to be on Twitter, so I am. Whether it's doing me any good or increasing my sales, I don't know. I want the next sort of 6 months, I want to continue with this, looking for more opportunities, writing my blog, writing stuff. But I think that I would like to write another book, yes. But I might have to go into, as I said, some of those more tricky areas. Or maybe I should write something similar, but based on, say, the temperament lens instead of the interaction styles lens. Or maybe I should write something more business orientated, a couple of chapters on leadership or teamwork or stuff. Yeah, don't know. So got some ideas, but nothing concrete yet.
Great. So it's to be continued. We'll see what comes up next. Very interested to see where it all goes, and it's great to see the book selling and such a great collaboration with the publisher, and it all worked out well. Just give us a quick rundown. How do people find out more, contact you? What's your Twitter handle? What's the info? What do people need to know?
Okay. Well, I know I'm already connected, or followed by some people who are probably on this call. Terry Connellan, I think, follows me, or we're connected somehow on Twitter. So my Twitter handle is @CatherineStoth1. Probably the easiest way to find my contact details is my website. So that's www.essenwood.co.uk, and Essenwood is also the name of my business. Catherine@essenwood.co.uk is my email address. So any of those ways, really. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. My surname is Stothart. I have to spell my surname for everybody, but I blame my husband for that. But yeah, no, I'd love to have contact from people and, ideas. And I often find that when people, when I read the things that other people have written, or I see comments that they've made on Twitter, it helps me to think about things. So, I find it quite stimulating to have some communication from other people.
Right. So yeah, you're inviting people, do get in touch with Catherine. We've run out of time now, unfortunately. So yes, you can continue this online and get in touch with Catherine through any of those means. Also, do sign up for the BAPC conference if you haven't already. Remember, 11th to 13th of April. It's going to be a good one, great one this year. Great, the best. That's my Donald Trump bit. The best conference, the best. It's going to be really good. So yeah, sign up, and we'll see you next month for another In Conversation. Stay tuned, and thank you, Catherine, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Cheers. Bye-bye.